Welcome back, everybody, to the channel. We're going to do a little testing of the new Nikon Z9 Firmware 3.0. There's really only 2 or 3 things that I care about. One is they included C60 for the high frame rate JPEG, which does about 20 megapixel, 60 frames per second in JPEG. And then we have an update to 3D tracking for animals, so that it doesn't autofocus on the background or foreground if something gets in the way, or it doesn't get distracted as easily. And the third thing I'd like to check out is this digital zoom thing that they have on there, so that you can actually program the control ring on your lens so that you can digitally zoom in and out up to 2x. So your 40 millimeter lens becomes an 80 millimeter lens. But this is for video only, and it's only for 4K, 30, or 24. You cannot do it in 4K 50 or 60, 120. You can't do it in 8K anything. And whenever I was messing with it, I noticed that whenever you turn it on as an option, it darkens out all of your autofocus options for the video, so you're stuck with large area wide when it's turned on. And to get your focus options back, you have to turn it off. And at first I was just going into the menu and turning it on and off, and I thought that was kind of dumb. So then I realized, well, you can just add it to your I menu in video mode. So that's what I did, and it makes it so much easier to turn it on and off when you want it. It seems to be pretty good so far for like product video when you want to keep a 4K resolution and not have to crop in post. So you can digitally zoom in and out onto your, for my product photography or video for like reviews and stuff. And seems pretty good for that. But I'm not really entirely sure what I'm going to use it for besides that. I'm sure other people have better ideas for it. And another like negative for it is you have to get out of 4K 60. Let's say you want to shoot in 4K 60, and you want to go back to 4K 30, and you still want to keep like 3D tracking in your video. Well, you have to make sure you go back to 4K 30, then you can go into the menu, turn high resolution zoom off, then you get your autofocus point stuff back. So say you spend all day shooting 4K 120, and then you're using 3D tracking for that or whatever, and you go do a talking head segment and you're doing 4K 24, and you want it to do, eye focus on you or subject tracking, you have to go in there, turn off high resolution zoom, and then go back into regular 4K 30. It's kind of like you have to go through 2 menu options to turn it off and turn it on. So you can put them both in your I menu, makes it easier, but it's still like janky. Now I understand why it's like that. When you zoom in using the power zoom, I call it power zoom. It reminds me of a power zoom lens. I know it's not called that. Anyways, when you use the power zoom and you're zooming in from 1x to 2x, it goes from an 8K downsample to 4K to 4K, and then down to a DX 1.5x 4K. So that way you're getting 4K the whole range, doubling your lens, and then you also don't have to worry about cropping in post and losing resolution. So if you shoot in 4K the whole time and you want to crop way in like I do in a lot of my videos, then you're actually losing resolution. You have to upscale that when you export. This way it's constant 4K the whole time and you don't lose detail. But one thing I did think about that might be useful for wildlife people. So if you have a Z lens with a control ring, you can map the control of the high resolution zoom to the control ring. So most Z lenses, you can just turn the dial and you can control it real fine control on it. Now if you don't have a Z lens, you can map it to the FN 1 and 2 buttons and just toggle back and forth like a power zoom lens. So you can use an F lens on an FTZ adapter or any other lens on an adapter that has autofocus. I mean, you could probably do it. The non-autofocus lens, don't know how well that would work out. So you could theoretically, which we're going to try here in a minute, shoot 4K 30 at 600 millimeters on an FTZ adapted lens like this. We're using the Z cam on here, and there's a Heron over here. And then you could use the digital zoom, power zoom, and you could go from 600 to 1200 millimeters. So let's try that out. And it's programmed with FN 1 and 2 buttons on the front of the camera. Now that was pretty cool, but handheld, super shaky, I'm sure you've seen. And I can't exactly slow it down to mitigate the shake like I can shooting 120 4K. So if we switch over to 4K, then we switch into crop mode, we still get the 2x on the 600, but it's 4K 120. And we get animal eye AF. To just regular 4K in crop mode of 120, obviously you're going to take 4K 120 because you still keep eye and animal autofocus instead of using wide area large. So just trying that out, learn something new. You don't keep eye autofocus, using that power zoom. So for wildlife on the Z9, if you want more reach, just stick to 4K 120 in crop mode for the 2.3x crop. So real quick, we're going to try 3D tracking on this Heron because he's probably going to fly away soon. The wind keeps blowing us towards him. So we're going to switch just to animal 3D tracking. Super accurate. Doesn't seem to want to lose him. Okay, so already pretty impressed with the 3D tracking update. And let's get a little bit closer. And a quick note, they added a cool little thing to the camera where you can change what color you want your autofocus box to be, either green or red, and I have changed it to red because everything in nature is green. Not much is red. I can actually see it way better. Not gonna lie, this little floppy Z-cam thing's such a pain. So, quick review of the photos we just took as the Heron flew off. The box did look like it was kind of jumping all over the place, but it stayed somewhere on the bird. Didn't really seem to go to the background, to the bank, and he was pretty close to a lot of brush. So I definitely feel like that was also an improvement from when it was. Second Heron. I know that's not the same one because the other one flew down the lake. Trying something new. We're going to try and do some video and turn stabilization off in the camera. We'll see if that helps with the little micro jitters I see a lot of times that I have to cut out of a lot of footage just to keep it looking crisp. Maybe it'll make my job easier in post. That time it did seem to struggle a little bit to keep it in focus as the bird was flying away from us. A little bit harder than just going left or right. Judging distance has always been kind of Achilles heel of a lot of cameras. Still got a pretty cool picture. It looks like he's like dancing on the water though. Kind of wish we could find like a Kingfisher or some bufflehead or something. Something that, you know, needs a little practice to get. But the next bird we find, I think I'm going to try the new C60. They are just JPEG, so you can't really push the file a whole lot. But I think we should be good enough not to worry about that. It's a pretty overcast day, so the lighting should be pretty forgiving. Yeah, before I wasn't like too thrilled about the 120 FPS JPEG photo mode, because in reality it's just 4K 120, a little bit bigger pixels. And the C60 now, 60 frames per second JPEG is about 19.5 to 20 megapixels. So I'm pretty thrilled about that, to be honest. The C120, nah, not a big deal. Then Canon does like the whole R3 C195, basically 195 frames per second, but that thing only gets you like less than a second to shoot. So that's some extreme specific situations. And to be honest, I thought you'd go a little bit longer than that, considering it's not a 50 megapixel camera. Apparently like a week or so ago, someone's seen some widgeons here in crested graves. So I don't know how accurate that is. So we've pretty much paddled around here. This is the north or south shore. This is just past the park office at Moraine, and we're right across from the little beach here. Now we haven't really seen anything besides those two herons and a couple seagulls that just kept flying further away. And so we're going to pack up here since it's still kind of early. And I think we're going to head out to McDanials boat launch. There's a bunch of little coves and stuff there. I've had some pretty good luck in the past with finding some birds or waterfowl. So we got to get back to the launch, pack up real quick, and ship out down the road to there. Now you see me, I have a fur hat on. It is a little chilly out. It's about 47 degrees. And I look over here on this little log as we're getting ready to pack up to move to the next spot. There's a freaking turtle. And I just shot a turtle on C60. That's not overkill. And he looks like he's laughing at me about it. Little bonus thing about C60 is you shoot in DX mode, so 900 millimeters on the 150 to 600. Pretty nifty. Okay, now let's get back to the truck and pack up and go to the next spot.
Chattanooga, boy had $1 and dime. I headed out for Nashville on the Hard Rock Line. I'm working on that old steamboat and I learned to ride and steer. When my feet had touched dry land, how happy I did feel. Been saving every penny for to make up through the fall. Working for that dollar, but it never adds up at all. Coming around the river bank, heard the old train whistle sing. The very next thing you hear from me, I've been tied to a ball and chain. Well, come this time tomorrow, reckon I don't know where I'll be. But if it wasn't for that old sheriff, I'd be back in Tennessee. Playing cards and crap games, not looking for the score. And if I ever get back home again, I'll never roam no more. Gather round, you good time boys, listen to my song. May not know better, but I know you know right from wrong. Buy yourself a postcard so you can see the lights of town. Find yourself a country girl, keep quiet and settle.
So we've arrived here at McDaniels, and I've already seen a couple of birds. So we'll see how we fare here. And hopefully the Z-Cam mount for my phone doesn't go flying off into the water, because that thing is ungodly loose. It just flops all over the place. I get it was a $60 item that records an EVF super cheap, but they should have done some work on that mount. I should really just take the one off the Shinobi and put it on there. And by flopping around, I mean, like, what the hell's this crap about? And it's just like, I don't know, I'll have to do a review on it. This just drives me nuts, to be completely honest with you. So, wait to see that rant in the future. There's a kingfisher in front of us on a branch. Hopefully I can maneuver, get us close. Ooh, that was close. Camera did a pretty good job of keeping track, and I don't know if I'll be able to convince you that it was me and not the camera or not, but it kept really good track halfway through, and I let off the shutter, which lets off the autofocus, and I wasn't able to re-grab autofocus as I was moving across the water. But whenever I locked on and it flew across, it did really well, and it did not think about the background or the foreground or the waves underneath of it. So let's take a look and see what we got. And another reason real quick that I let off the shutter is I knew I was running out of buffer space, because I have Card 1 as my Extreme Pro, which is not as fast as writing as the Angel Bird. I'd really like a second Angel Bird, but don't have that just yet. I'll be. Some of the best in-flight Kingfisher pictures I get are on a JPEG. We even got slow motion of him pooping, which not really slow motion, I guess it's just 60p. I was unsure what that was as he was flying by. I honestly thought that he hit the water. Well, now that I've shown that the 60p is really nice and you still got room to crop, it's almost like shooting a 60 frames per second D500. But, you know, JPEG only, which is kind of a bummer, but you get 60 frames a second. I don't really know of any DX cameras that are going to shoot RAW at 60 frames per second. And real quick, neat thing, I tested this on the Angelbird card, the 512 gig SE. You can shoot this 60p 407 frames in a row. So what's that? That's like, I don't know, I'm terrible at math. That's a lot of seconds. A lot of seconds in a row that you can get out of that on the Angelbird. And every time I did that test, I did like 5 or 6 times, I got 407 every time. So that's super cool. Not even in this area for 2 minutes. Get a Kingfisher in flight. But since I like my JPEGs, we're going to switch back to 20 FPS RAW. So 2-second story time. The bay that we're in, I several years ago, probably almost 6-7 years ago, I was here in a kayak, different kayak at the time, and there was a blue jay in one of these trees in the wintertime. It was probably December-ish, maybe it was April. Honestly, I don't remember, but there was no trees, no leaves on the trees. And I got one of my favorite to this day pictures of a blue jay. And everyone thinks that it's like a selective color photo, but that's just how it looked. It wasn't selective color. I didn't do any of that stuff. It's just a blue jay in a gray tree because there's no leaves and everything was dead because it's, you know, wintertime. That was on a D3400, but also still with the same Sigma lens I got now. So a lot of memories on this lens. It's going to be kind of sad whenever the time comes to sell it off and upgrade. Got ducks. Wood ducks too. I couldn't bend fast enough to get to them, but I think they went further back in the lake, so we'll try and catch up to them later. Oh my god. Oh, wood duck. Oh. Whew. I didn't think that wood duck was coming towards me. His buddies went further back towards the hidden river, and that wood duck, which looked like a drake, almost took my head off. Let's see how that worked out. It was in silent mode for some reason. Let's see what we got here. Nope, that was a female. What is this, more? They flew out of the hidden river and then flew back into it. And for those of you watching that's not from the area, the hidden river is it's a creek that flooded whenever they filled Lake Arthur, and you can paddle back between these two little hillsides, I don't know, a couple hundred feet on a good day. There was a video I did a couple years ago. I'll put a little pop-up for that. And yeah, I don't know if we'll get back that far today, but looks like the wood ducks kept going back there, but they keep flying out and like doing these loops. Maybe they're looking for their buddy? I don't know. Huh. Now that I think about it, I think that log's always been there. It's just the lake is down a foot. Before you could float over it, but you could feel it bumping the bottom of your kayak. Turn the GoPro around so you can see. So I'm gonna see if I can't get out of the kayak and walk to the other side of the log and see what we got over there. You won't be able to see me very well probably, but my microphone is synced to the GoPro, so you'll be able to hear what I say. I get a little bit closer to the shore. Oh, stuff stinks. Stinks. Okay. Don't go anywhere, kayak. Good thing I got knee boots. Okay. So, where I'm standing, it's usually like, the water's usually up to my knees. Maybe a little bit more. It's like gorgeous back here. Okay. Back in the kayak. Let's keep looking. Oh, kayak's gonna stink after this. Well, everyone, I'd have to say the Firmware 3.0 for the animal 3D tracking has definitely been an update. It definitely seems a lot more sticky, more focused on what's in front of it. Once it does lock on, it's a little more relentless. It doesn't really care about the background or foreground when something, you know, meshes in front or behind. So I definitely feel confident saying it's definitely a nice upgrade. I'd call it pretty close to being as reliable as using dynamic area. Now I have to make a decision if I want to use 3D or dynamic when it comes to like birds in flight with a busy background, as long as I can lock on and get focus myself with putting the box on the subject before they take off. Now, if the subject's already in motion and flying real fast or like moving like sports, whatever, I'd probably still stick to dynamic. But you know, for like sports and stuff, since you have breaks in the action and people are pretty big compared to like Kingfishers and stuff, I'm sure 3D would work perfectly fine for you. And the power zoom, the high resolution zoom, whatever Nikon wants to call it, I'm sure there's some great uses for it, but off the top of my head, it doesn't really fit what I do for the most part. And that C60, the 60 frames per second JPEG in crop mode, I definitely think after that little incident with the Kingfisher, won me over with that. And the 3D tracking in video also seems much better, as seen from the Herons earlier. I gotta say, all around, it's a pretty nice firmware update. So if you stuck through all this and seen the examples, I hope you subscribe to the channel so you can see whatever happens in the future with Nikon, especially the Z9. I don't really know if they're ever gonna make a firmware 4.0, but if they do, come check me out. I'm sure I'll have a video about it. So yeah, thanks for watching the video. Give it a thumbs up. Comment down below if you think the 3D tracking's any better. If you have the Z9, what your experiences are with 3.0. If you notice a difference. And until next time, happy shooting out there. It's gonna be winter soon. You better start bundling up. See ya.